If you are looking for a job abroad, you are in the right place. Welcome to Start Your International Career, your guide to finding a job abroad. In this episode, we have Isabella Solcà, who is a risk manager in a Swiss financial institution. Isabella, welcome to the podcast.
Buongiorno, Juanma. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. The story of how we met is interesting because we have a common friend, which is Diego, who was here in the podcast before. And he told me, I have a really interesting guest because she has a lot of stories. She has worked in Mexico and she can tell a lot of stories from Mexico from her time over there. So I said, okay, let's have a drink, let's have lunch, let's meet, and today you're here.
Here we are. Yeah. Oh, that was a very nice introduction. Thank you, Diego.
Yeah. To put the audience into context, can you briefly explain your background, your areas of expertise, etc.?
So, I'm Isabella, as you said, and I think we need to put something straight at first. I come from the most beautiful part of Switzerland, of course. That's the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland, which is very small but very cute. And I studied there, and somehow I always said, I will never work for a financial institution, I will never work in Zurich, and here I am. Exactly.
Okay. Currently you're working as a risk manager, right? Can you explain what is the job of a risk manager?
Yeah, it is something kind of very specific for the company that I work for, but basically we support all the client advisor in opening the accounts. And specifically what I do is to write a little bit the biography of our clients so that we understand how they became so wealthy, so how they made their wealth. So you meet with clients and you do a bit of research, I understand. Of course, there is also a bit of research before. And then, of course, after the conversation, we go a little bit more deep. And, of course, we have some standards that we need to keep up. And these are decided by compliance. So we try to onboard the client and giving to our company all the information that they need to feel comfortable in having onboarded the client. Okay. I'm sure you have written a lot of interesting stories from very interesting people as well, right? Yeah. They're pretty cool, actually. Yeah.
So you're the bridge between the customer who wants to enter the financial institution to bring their money and also the financial institution, saying you really work for the financial institution, but at the same time, you also work kind of way for the customer, right? Because you need to develop a good story for them to be accepted. They need to tell us a very good story so that then at the end, the bank feels comfortable in opening the account. Okay. And I guess it's also your job to understand if some part of that story is not fully true. Of course. Yeah. We also check that and we go back to the client and we have discussions. But that's very interesting. I also like to write on my private time, so also writing those biographies is also very interesting for me. Okay, perfect. And how did you do to end up in this job? How does someone prepare to be a risk manager? It is actually a pretty new job. I guess it almost started in the company maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago at most. Before that, I was an assistant. So I guess being an assistant is really what made me understand fully what the company does, all the processes, etc. And I always loved to be in contact with clients and also working with the client advisor. So there are so many rules that we need to follow while, let's say, opening the account. Being an assistant, it really gave me a broad overview of all the processes, and then this was kind of a natural change, a natural development from an assistant. Otherwise, I would say somebody from compliance might also apply for a job like mine, which is pretty close. Okay, yeah. Sounds a lot like compliance. Indeed. It does. Yeah. And for example, what would you say are the studies or certifications that someone needs to be in that position? And nothing is really compulsory or required, but we had some internal certification that we could do that I did in the past to be, let's say, a little more on top of the risk things that we need to follow, and also regularly we have trainings, etc. So okay. So it's a very specific job, and I wonder how can someone break into the industry as a risk manager? So for example, if I were to prepare now from scratch, what would you recommend me to study?
I don't think there is maybe a degree in particular that you will need to study to be this. I think mostly that you need to be a little bit curious about how the company works, all the processes, curious about, of course, your clients, what they did to become so wealthy. And yeah, being an assistant for sure helped me a lot in developing into this role. Yeah, otherwise being from a compliance function. So maybe, yeah, a kind of, compliance person might have a law degree.
Okay, I see. And having talked about interesting clients and understanding where the money comes from, I assume that the situation has changed a lot for Switzerland in the last years, right? So I guess it's now more demanding on understanding where the money is coming from than it used to be. In that regard, how has your job changed since you started until now?
Well, there are more and more rules that we need to follow, that the client advisor also need to follow, and we have to support them. So let's say we work all together. Of course, everything is to, let's say, protect the reputation of our company.
Yeah.
So we try to do our best in that.
Which is more and more every time,
right?
Which
is more and more, yeah, I have to admit. But still, being challenging, yeah, you always, let's say, learn a little bit more.
Okay.
So that's also good.
Talking about this money that is a lot of times coming from the outside into Switzerland, one big market is the Latin American market, and especially Mexico. I know from other friends that I have working in private banking or in other areas, they have a lot of customers from Mexico. And I understand that this was also your case, that you were checking for Mexican customers, and at some point you even went to Mexico, and you were there for how many years?
For 3 years.
For 3 years working in Mexico. Okay,
it was a big detour from Lugano, not willing to come to Zurich, and so I said, let's go 3 years to Mexico to adapt a little bit more.
Completely different world.
Yeah. I come from a very small town in the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland, so it was like, I think, 2,700 people living there to a 23 million city.
And how did that happen? Why Mexico?
Well, that's a funny story, actually. So, as said, I was an assistant back in Lugano, and I was hired basically without banking experience, but just because I studied Spanish. And I learned Spanish because I actually lived in Berlin, which doesn't really make sense. But during university, and I studied communication sciences in Lugano, I did this exchange program, the Erasmus, and I did it in Berlin with the focus to learn German.
And you learned Spanish?
Well, it didn't happen, because two of my very good friends, still very good friends, are called Miguel and Alberto. These are not very German names. So they come from Madrid, and we communicated in Italian, they communicated in Spanish, and it was the birth of a very nice friendship. So in Berlin, I improved my Spanish, but also I met one of still my best friend, and she's from Scotland, she's Nicola, and she always said, if you want to improve your English, come to Scotland, because the accent is so hard. That if you understand us, then you will understand everybody.
It's the real test.
Exactly. So at the beginning, I couldn't really understand much, but after graduating, I lived 1 year in Scotland, and then in Scotland, it was raining a lot. So that's when I followed the advice of Miguel and Alberto, and I moved to Spain.
Okay.
So then I lived 1 year in Spain. I worked there. Everything was beautiful. And then my cousin, who was working in Lugano in the same company that I am now, he said that there was a team that was really, really struggling in finding somebody that spoke Spanish. So he thought about me.
Okay.
And somehow, he and my mom, they convinced me. I, of course, didn't want to leave Spain. It was beautiful, had a perfect life. But, when they put the seed and then, I don't know. So I said, okay, I'll just do the interview, and then the interview went well. So I was hired and I was an assistant for 5 years until the office in Lugano was closed.
Okay.
And so nobody was fired, but we were to be relocated in either Geneva or Zurich or anywhere where the company had offices. So what I did after one long night of disbelief, of course, the morning after, I just checked the intranet of the company and I selected jobs that I wanted to do in places where I wanted to live. So it was like kind of my opportunity. And so I selected a few places, like, very nice places with beaches, etc., where I wanted to live. And then, you press search and there is a moment and then 3 jobs appeared.
All right.
So there was an assistant job in Mexico City. And then I think there were business management, which also I said, yeah, why not? I could also work in business management. So two business management positions in Sydney and in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
All right, not bad. 3 locations.
Exactly. I just been on
good.
holiday to Puerto Rico, and I said it would be lovely to work there. So, well, I'm still waiting for the answer for Sydney and Puerto Rico. But of course, a girl can dream. It might happen. You never know. But yeah, it was 2013. So
okay.
I think time has passed. That's a pity they didn't even reply. But yeah, I received a phone call from the people
Mexico.
in Mexico. And yeah, they said that my CV was interesting. Of course, I wrote my CV in Spanish because I had prepared that same morning. I had prepared the CV in Spanish and English, so I just sent the one in Spanish to them. And yeah, we had very nice and normal conversation, let's say, until one day I had a very, very strange conversation with a person from Human Resources. And maybe that's also a tip for who is listening, not to put them off about their education. So I was asked very strange questions, and one was if my kindergarten was public or private, and then if my primary school was public or private, if my secondary school was public or private, high school, and then university, same questions. Of course, I guess she didn't really know much about the Swiss educational system, which is mostly public. So to all the questions, I answer public, public, public. And the colleagues sitting next to me, they were like, what is she saying? Because I was repeating public, public, public. And then she said, okay, bye. And she hung up.
No way.
And I really thought that maybe my chance was gone because I didn't go to a private university, which actually doesn't exist in Switzerland. So that would have been a little bit difficult to
but they were judging your education by the standards maybe that they have in Mexico,
exactly,
right? In Mexico,
exactly.
maybe they do these differentiations, so if you're from the public, you're in a different bucket.
Exactly, and also to a colleague who was Brazilian that was also hired. I think in Brazil, the university is better a public one, but the high school is better private or the other way around. Okay. So they also misjudged him because of this, let's say, mismatch, while their parents, of course, put him in the better school that they could afford.
Okay.
So yeah, that was a little
and
that
what
was a little
happened
strange.
Afterwards?
And then
because you got the job, how was the application process?
Afterwards, I got the job, but I only knew after a few months that I was the only one that applied. So
okay, so it was for you.
So yeah, it was for either I went to a public school or not. That's really strange because I think Mexico is a very, at least, cool place to go and work to. But yeah, that year at that time, nobody had applied. So I got the job.
So you got the job and you moved there. I'm interested to understand the relocation process. How did you know where to live? How did you know the areas, about safety, about food, about people who are living there? Did you know anybody, etc.? Please tell me about all this.
No, I actually didn't know anybody. The people that actually interviewed me, They were absolutely very nice, and they said, if you need anything, any recommendation, just reach out. So I asked them more or less in which neighborhood it was, let's say, more safe to live, and the company offered 2 months paid accommodation so that we could also find, let's say, permanent stay. So the accommodation was very, very close to the company. So, and the area was really nice. The area is called Polanco,
Okay.
which is where most of the international companies are. And it's kind of the posh neighborhood. I loved it.
Okay.
Many restaurants, many places to go out, etc.
Is it the expat area as well?
I would say the expat area, or also there's another neighborhood which is my favorite, but it's a little bit far. You should go by taxi, and traffic in Mexico is really, really terrible, especially in the morning. So it was a little bit too far for me to move there, but I really, really love it. And this neighborhood is called La Condesa.
Okay.
And there is a funny fact, I don't know if I can share this anecdote.
Please do.
About La Condesa. So the real name of the neighborhood is Ippodromo Condesa. So Condesa means countess, and Ippodromo is a hippodrome. So the legend says that there was this countess that loved horses, and she had so many, many horses, and that she had to build a hippodrome for them. And actually the hippodrome is still there. It is the main street in La Condesa. It's called Avenida Amsterdam, which has like an elliptic shape. I don't know if you've ever been to Mexico City.
No,
not
but
yet.
I know. Okay. I can imagine a hippodrome.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Same hippodrome, and then now it's the main street with all the bars and restaurants there. And so the legend says that at night you can always hear the horses of this countess galloping along the hippodrome, but nobody has ever seen either the countess or the horses.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a bit of a mysterious neighborhood in Mexico, but very, very hipster now. So.
I think I would go to Polanco now after hearing that story.
No, I guess it's safe. I don't know at night, but yeah, a few colleagues also live there, but then they needed to get a taxi, maybe 30 minutes or a little bit more with traffic. And now I think they built some sort of tram tracks since I came back. So yeah, there's maybe an easier way to get to Polanco to work.
Okay. And you were mentioning transport. For example, outside of the neighborhood that you live in, how would you go to other areas of the city?
So walking is okay. It's not recommended to walk, of course, at night or at dawn, and usually don't cross parks when it's too dark or when it's getting dark, but you can walk. Of course, you always need to be a little bit mindful that you're not in Zurich.
Yeah.
So yeah, you need to check your purse, check your phone, etc. And otherwise, at the beginning when I arrived, we didn't have Uber. So there was just the taxi, that you raise your hand and they stop. Thing is, we look foreign, or at least I did. And so every time it was like $10. And I'm like, come on, $10 to go from here to this pizzeria. Come on. And it was $10, of course, the equivalent in pesos. Until one night, coming back from the pizzeria, this lovely taxi driver told me that it was $3. And I'm like, no, señor, por favor, this is 10. I actually told him that I always paid 10. And he said, no, but come on, from there to here.
Yeah.
And he actually said, 3 is kind of a ripoff. So, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I've been really, really ripped off.
He was the only one honest.
Exactly. He was the only one honest. I actually paid him $10 for this very, very precious advice. And then every time getting into a taxi, I was like, how much it is? And from here to there, and they would say any price. I would just say, no, sorry, that's too much, slam the door, next one. But of course, it takes time.
Yeah, I see.
And then Uber came, which is, it was a lot better. Although I have an anecdote about Uber. I don't know.
I'm sure you have.
I don't know if you want
Before we go
to share it.
into that, because you were mentioning about the cost of transport. I'm interested to understand what is the cost of living there. Because, of course, especially coming from Switzerland to Mexico, salaries are completely different, and it is also cost of life different.
Yeah.
So what would you say is, in Europe, standard salary that you can make a good living in Mexico?
Yeah, I think going to Mexico for me was the maybe only opportunity to be a millionaire. So I would say that 1 million pesos is...
in pesos.
In pesos, of course. It would be, let's say, the minimum.
How
or
much that
my
is
suggested. It's about, in dollars, I think, is 55,000. So
55K per year gross.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you also have 35% taxes that are deducted, so you just receive the net. And then you have a pension that is about 5% that is also deducted. So at the end, it's like 500,000 that you receive as your net salary.
Okay, and that's enough to make a good living, including, for example, traveling, including restaurants, like being comfortable enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 10 years since I left Mexico, 12 years actually. So, it should still be okay. Thing is about Mexico is that you can have like a $2 set of tacos or 2 Michelin star dinner. So you can have everything. So it really depends what you like, how you're comfortable eating, especially, that's European stomach is not that
Indeed,
strong.
I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Is it okay to eat local food?
We always tried. But sometimes, you feel sick, especially at the beginning. We were 10 Swiss people arriving more or less all at the same time, and we felt sick at the same time.
All of you?
All of us. And we were living in the same hotel, so you could imagine.
It was the joke for the office, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're like zombies in the hotel, and it's called the Moctezuma Vengeance.
Okay.
So
there's an anecdote after that. Sure.
Well, there is always an anecdote, but it was really, really a strong stomachache. So they say because we are not used to all the spices, etc. Also, drinking water, they always recommend, at least at the beginning, never to drink water without, because you don't know where this ice was produced. Maybe it was done with tap water. Of course, never drink tap water like in Zurich. I was amazed when I came back that I could drink tap water.
I can imagine.
And I didn't have to buy all the bottles all the time. So be careful with spices, etc. Food was really, really good, but you needed to be careful.
I'm sure the food was amazing, and for me, it's one of the best things about moving abroad. Being able to fully try local cuisine, because when you're traveling, you eat here and there, but when you're living there, it's when you really get to understand deeply the culture, and food is a big part of it. So if you want to go local with food, you at least need to start small and then
exactly.
make bigger steps, right?
Exactly.
But it's possible in the end if you're living there for a...
It is. I wasn't a very big fan of food from the stalls. That usually along the city you always have, and this is very cheap, but of course the hygienic conditions are pretty bad there. So I just wanted to save me from another stomachache.
Okay.
So, but I tried everything, like really weird animals, and
I would do the same.
Yeah.
And for example, regarding work, when you arrived in Mexico, what was the difference in terms of working? Because in the office you were not only expats, right? I understand you were also working with Mexican people.
Yeah. We were, let's say, 10 expats, and mostly Swiss, I would say, or all Swiss, and then 170 local people.
All right. So you would say it's mandatory to speak Spanish, right? To be able to work there.
It would be. I actually lived in Spain before, as I was saying, but actually I don't think that my Spanish was up to the level of this requirement, because in Mexico they speak really, really funny. Like I don't know some expressions like "qué onda," and I was like, okay.
Ah, yeah, you mean
this very Spanish slang, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was used to the Spanish of Spain, and I thought I spoke well, but yeah, sometimes I couldn't understand them. But yeah, little by little, I know all the tricks now.
Mm-hmm. What would you say was the work-life balance in Mexico?
I was very good, incredibly good.
Even better than Switzerland.
Oh yeah, so much better. Okay. So much better. I think maybe coming from Switzerland, then you really want things done a certain way, so you push everybody else. But the way that they do it, it works. And the pace is a lot less stressful than in Europe, let's say. Okay. So we had a very good work-life balance. Maybe the time was a little strange because we started at 9 until 3. And then again from 5 until 7.
Yeah.
So because lunch was very late for us, let's say Swiss people. Here sometimes I got an invitation at 11:30, which I also don't understand because it's basically breakfast. But having lunch at 3, then we wanted maybe to shorten the afternoon. But actually, if you go to a restaurant, everything is so slow that at the end, by the time that you pay, it's already 5 o'clock. So then you go back to the office, you do a couple of hours. Of course, having the main company here in Switzerland, we were working with them because of the 7 hours difference. We were working a lot in the morning, and then in the afternoon, we were by ourselves. But of course, yeah. Okay. We could also send an email for support later on. We also had the United States on the same time, so that was also helpful.
So you got really used to the pace of Mexico in a short time because you have no other option, right?
There is no other option. They would use actually that's a Spanish normal word, which is ahora, which it means now. So I'll do it now. And then now is, I'm still waiting.
It's tomorrow, maybe.
It's tomorrow, maybe. Oh, I didn't tell you, but it's not going to happen. And actually they say ahorita. So it's like a small now. So ahorita I'm going to do it. And sometimes it doesn't. But then that's okay. I mean, you learn to live
with it, yeah.
To live with it. And you don't, maybe a tip can be not to expect too much from somebody that said, I will do it. If they're going to do it, fantastic. Not, we'll find another solution.
Okay. It's a funny way to see it. And we need to do something because one of my bosses is Mexican, so we need to speak also about the good things of Mexico. We cannot just say the bad things. So in your experience, what was the best professionally and personally about Mexico?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be the same that I am now if I hadn't gone to Mexico. Of course, it was very formative and it taught me a lot, and people there are just amazing. Really, really wearing their heart on their sleeve, absolutely helpful all the time, especially to me that I was a foreign. They gave me tips, they helped me out, they took me places if I needed to, so absolutely it was great. I probably had the best line manager so far. That was a lady in Mexico. She taught me so much in a very, let's say, subtle way. She was just pointing out a few things that I should change or that I should think about, etc. And then after a while she said, "But you really did change," or "You remember the tip that I gave you? You really put that into practice." It was so subtle that I didn't even realize, and it was great. It was great.
Wow.
And also, I think I fell in love with Mexico because I always had loved archaeology. Also, when I was little, of course, I wanted to be an archaeologist.
Okay.
And a princess and
An
ballerina, astronaut, etc. But the archaeologist, I thought it was feasible. But when I went to Mexico, like every weekend, there was something that you could do, museum or go to this Aztec archaeological site or fly to Chiapas and see the ruins there. It was just beautiful for me.
Okay. I can imagine from
Yeah.
the smile on your face that it was
Yeah.
a good experience.
Yeah, the holidays are always very, very nice. That is why I think you need to be a millionaire there.
Yeah, millionaire in pesos.
Because millionaire in pesos, because you really want to enjoy. As you're there, let's say for a limited amount of time, then you want to eat the best tacos, go to the best place, see the best beach, see the
Yeah.
whales, and go places. Also go to the US. It's very close. I also visited a lot South America while I was there,
Yeah.
so that I would, let's say, spare the 12-hour flight from Europe. So
It's a good spot to travel around,
Yeah.
indeed. And for example, for those people who want to get an experience in Mexico, what would be your advice to enter the Mexican job market?
just find, in my opinion, an international company, because salary-wise would be, let's say, a little bit better for a foreign than a local company, and apply, speak Spanish.
Yeah.
That would be very advisable. English, of course, in international companies is spoken, but not as much as I thought, actually. So sometimes it really depends on the person, but a lot of people have maybe more of a basic level.
Yeah.
So it would be fundamental to have a good Spanish knowledge before applying.
Yeah.
I remember there was a funny story. One Italian guy applied for the company, so they gave him his CV, and then I contacted him because he had moved somehow to Mexico, and I asked him, so how's your? I mean, we were talking Italian, of course, but then I said, how's your Spanish? And he's like, yeah, I go to Ibiza every summer for 2 weeks, and I'm like, I don't think it's enough to work. I'm so sorry. So yeah. And then now the newest generation, of course, they speak more English, but maybe, in the past when we were also interviewing assistants, their English knowledge wasn't that good. They fake it on the resume.
You need Spanish, that's for sure, and then target internationals.
Yeah, I would say that.
And specifically for your job, for risk management, would you have any advice for risk management in Mexico? Was there any difference from doing it in Switzerland and doing it in Mexico? What would be a good candidate for risk management in Mexico?
Actually, my transition from assistant to risk management actually happened in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really the first person that had that job. So I was taught by people in Switzerland that had the same position. But then at the beginning, I was seeing a little bit as an antagonist, as I didn't want them to open accounts because I was too strict, that it was like a policewoman, let's say, which is absolutely not the case. We need to follow some rules. And then, if the client is okay, we can onboard the client. Otherwise, tampi, we cannot do that. But at the end, I really hope to believe I've got a nickname, which was Lady Risk.
Lady Risk.
And I'm very proud of it. So I think after a while, I was understood, let's say, that the job is important, that you need a person like me in the company, and that we can work together and we have the same goal. But at the beginning, it was a little bit hard, and maybe especially as I was a woman and I was young. So they said, that little lady, esa chiquita, is it true what she says? And I'm like, yeah, of course it's true. I'm here. Come on, talk to me. But they always wanted to check with somebody else, especially with a man.
You didn't have
if
authority.
My line manager wasn't there, they wanted to check with a man if what I was saying, it was right. But that's a little bit of the cultural difference that you overcome with time.
Yeah. I guess it was a shocking experience for you coming from Switzerland, which is very developed in that way, and going to Mexico and needing men to back up what you're saying. It's like, well, okay, I'm coming from a different background.
Yeah,
I understand here is different, but it's not how I do business.
It's kind of taking a plane 12 hours later, you are in 1960. And I never thought about that because we were in Mexico City. So, capital. Yeah, a capital city shouldn't be like, let's say, like that anymore. But yeah, at the beginning, also had a few hiccups to get my work permit. They spelled my name wrong, unfortunately. They spelled Isabella with one L, which maybe that's the way that we pronounce it in Spanish, but also in Spanish it's written with two L's.
Yeah.
So in the first, let's say, governmental institute was spelled wrong, and then it went to other governmental offices, etc. At the last one, they discovered the mistake. So I had to go back and redo the whole process again. So it took me ages, let's say maybe over the 2 months, I say, to get the work permit. So if you don't get the work permit, of course, you cannot work. If you cannot work, you cannot get paid, which is, important. And also, I needed a bank account. So if I didn't get any money, I couldn't get a bank account. And if I didn't have a bank account, I couldn't issue a guarantee to get a new place to live because the hotel was just temporary. So it was like all complicated. I didn't find, any easy solution, but they said to me, I need to start somewhere. So while I was doing the process all over again, I also went to the bank to try to open a bank account. And my colleagues were also waiting for me when I came back because I always had this very funny anecdote because everything happened to me, everything strange happened to me when I arrived in Mexico. And so when I was with this bank clerk, and she was absolutely very nice, she did a very, very nice client history. So I was basically, her client. So she was asking me where I was from, etc., where I did my money, in which company I worked. That was very interesting to see that from the other side. But then at some point she said, but where is your father? And I'm like, Switzerland? Do you have a brother? I'm like, yeah. Where is he? And I'm like, in Switzerland as well? Okay, so you're here by yourself? And I'm like, yeah, I told you I work there, and yeah, I'm trying to get the work permit, etc. And she's like, no, this is all wrong. And I'm like, yeah, I know, this is all wrong, this is all a mess. And then she said, you know what you should do? And that's a tip for all the ladies listening. You should get married. If you get married, you're going to solve all your problems. So, like, all my married friends never told me something like this. But apparently, I needed to fake a marriage to somebody to get his, let's say, bill, like the electricity bill. So we would say that we would live together on the address on the electricity bill. And I would use that electricity bill as my address, like my permanent address, so that at least I could open the account. Wow. And on the basis of where I was working, they would issue a guarantee, even though I didn't even have the work permit and I wasn't paid, but they would still issue a guarantee so that I could still start looking for a house.
Yeah, basically you couldn't open an account, you couldn't have work permit, you couldn't do anything
if I wasn't married. No,
exactly,
or let's say
a man.
Without a man or without, let's say, a more permanent address,
yeah,
which you can only get if you get married. So, yeah.
Hopefully that situation has changed now.
I really hope.
People, and we can leave it in the past. But yeah, it's not nice. I completely understand.
It was very funny,
Now it's funny, but at that point, I understand it was a mess for you. You were angry at that.
I was angry, but
I want my money.
Not so much, actually. I was surprised about myself because then I said, this will be solved somehow. I didn't know when, but I felt very calm. If something would happen to me here in Switzerland, I would go crazy immediately. on the first minute. But then in Mexico, it's like, this is how things go. And everything will work out for the best.
Yeah, that's a good way to see it. And it worked.
And it did. Yeah. That's why this experience changed me a little bit.
Yeah. I can imagine you come back a completely different person after facing these challenges. With some of them are funny, of course, but some of them were real challenges at that time. It happens to everyone that goes abroad and needs to start a new life from scratch. You need to deal with admin paperwork in a different language. You need to talk with different cultures, different ways of working, of thinking. So it really shapes your mindset. And in that regard, I wanted to ask you about integration and social life in Mexico. You were speaking about the expats. Were you also able to make local friends, do local plans?
I did. Actually, I was very fortunate at the beginning when I arrived in Mexico and I could finally rent an apartment. I was sharing with a colleague from Switzerland. But then when he moved back, my flatmate was Daniel. He was a local Mexican, a colleague of mine. So also with him, I think he helped me a lot to get to know a bit more of the local Mexican life, which is a different kind of.
So you would say life. It's possible. It's not
of course,
as an expat you're living completely away from society.
Yeah. Also, I mean, my colleagues, everybody was really, really nice, trying to make plan and invite me. So also I was very lucky that I could have them. I've been to a couple of lovely Mexican weddings as well. So then you get to know people there. It was beautiful. There were so many people. Actually, they said they were small weddings. But, a small wedding in Europe is...
And it's a concert.
Exactly.
I can imagine.
But really, really beautiful wedding with mariachis at the end. So you get to know also the culture there. But of course, there is this little bubble of expat that especially at the beginning, I think you live there. And it was a little bit strange, maybe for us Swiss people, when we were inviting some of them, let's say, I don't know, we want to do a brunch on Sunday in a specific restaurant, and we invite, let's say, a couple of colleagues, I don't know, 5 colleagues or so. So we are 10 Swiss people plus 5 Mexican. And we book for 15, of course, the table. And usually at the brunch, it was just the Swiss people. And
because
it was
they didn't arrive on time.
No, they didn't arrive at all. And it was very strange because they said that they would come to the brunch. So, of course, you count them in unless something happens. And, I mean, at the beginning, you also get a little bit worried. But actually, what happened is that they already had some plans. But for them, it was, and I guess it's a Mexican thing, they didn't feel comfortable in saying that they couldn't come. So they would say that they would come, but knowing that they wouldn't come.
So they don't make you angry by saying no, they just don't
Exactly. But then we said, but it's not that you make me angry because you didn't appear, but it's a little bit sad that you said you would come and I would expect you to be there. And then after a while, you just know you book for 10. And if somebody shows up, it's even better because you weren't expecting them to come and you had a chair.
Oh, my God. My boss is going to kill me after he listens to this episode.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
But it is what it is. It was your experience in Mexico. We're reaching towards the end of the podcast. And before I go with the 3 quick final questions, I wanted to ask you if you can only choose one good thing and one bad thing, what was the best and the worst about Mexico?
So the best thing, absolutely the people that I met there. And the worst thing, earthquakes that are a thing that I wasn't used to. And maybe the time that I saw a ghost, but that's for another podcast.
Well, that can be for another podcast, indeed. Okay. And now the 3 quick final questions.
Okay, these are 3 cute.
Quick answers. The first one is, which was your favorite local food?
So there is an ice cream shop in the main square in front of the Cathedral of Mérida, Yucatan, where you have the best, absolutely the best ice cream, and the flavor is corn. It's called elote. I don't know if in Spain, I don't think in Spain you say elote. It's maize.
Maize, yeah.
Maize.
But unexpected, ice cream. Your favorite
It's
local food from Mexico.
Corn ice cream.
That.
I actually took a flight before moving back to Switzerland. I took a flight same day to go to Mérida, eat tacos, the cochinita pibil with onions, like pickled onions on top, beautiful, and the ice cream. And then I went back to Mexico City. Okay. That was my treat. That's why you need to be a millionaire. If you want to do stuff like this.
Never heard of it. Corn ice cream.
Corn ice cream.
Okay, I will give it a try. See if I find it. And the next one is one book that you recommend.
My absolute favorite is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Okay.
So he's well-known, won the Nobel Prize for Literature. So it's the story of one family, the Familia Buendia, in 7 generations. Right. So that's a long story, what happened to them. There is a Netflix series.
It's a famous book.
It's very famous. And now with the Netflix series, maybe you can watch one episode and think if you want to read the book.
Perfect. And the last one is the best advice that you ever received.
So that also happened in Mexico. I had to think a little bit about it, but as I listened to your other podcast, then I knew this question would come. And actually, it happened in Mexico and was one of my colleagues, but actually it was more of a family member. I would call him Tío Gabriel, Uncle Gabriel. He said, beware of what you are wishing for, because you really wish it hard enough, it will become true. And then he asked me, what do you wish for now? And I said, Tío Gabriel?
An ice cream. A corn ice cream.
I wish. Now that would be a good idea. No, I just said, Tío Gabriel, I really want to go home. And after a few months, I was back in Zurich. So it worked.
Okay. Yeah, that's a powerful one. Be careful what you wish for, because it will happen. It can happen.
It can happen if you wish it hard enough.
Okay. And before we leave, I almost forgot to ask you. I know that you love stories. You've told a couple of them. And I know that you're also writing them and that you're planning to release a book, right? At some time.
Yeah. The book is a work in progress, but I wrote all the funny or strange stories that happened to me in Mexico on a website. It's called Medium. So under my name, you can find all the stories, and they're pretty, let's say, they were adventurous, but I could find a funny part of whatever happened to me. So that's why I like to see life. A little bit funny.
For people who were listening to the podcast and still want to go deeper into your stories from Mexico, we will leave the link in the description so they can find you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you, Guajomar.
If you enjoyed this conversation, follow me and share it with that friend who wants to move abroad. And if you're listening on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts, please like and rate the show with 5 stars. It helps me a lot more than you think. Thank you very much, and see you on the next one.